is the MTPredictor weekly market update for March 9th. All right, so we had another up move this week in the stock market here, and you can see I've got the weekly chart up. Let me go out to the monthly chart here first. And again, let's look at this prior swing here, because we want to take our decision point here because we know this is going to be a significant area of potential resistance. All right, so interestingly enough, last week we did get a good solid close above the monthly decision point resistance area in the S&P. All right, so let's go back down to the weekly chart here, because on the weekly chart we know we also have a 5-wave pattern up. And you can see here's your minimum wave 5, which we've come into in our typical wave 5. And last week we said we want to see our sellers overcoming buyers by the end of the week. How did the week end up? No, we have a neutral candle here. So basically neutral. We don't have sellers overcoming buyers yet, even though we have a potential topping pattern. Now the fact that they have closed above the decision point resistance area here, if they take out, well, in fact, I guess we closed above that level last week in the minimum wave 5, but and they did take that high out, which was pointing us now, we're probably going to go for that 1900 target. The typical wave 5 is just above that level. And when we look at the Dow, we'll maybe get some indication as to why we should anticipate 1900. Where's that level? It's about 1905 or so is the typical wave 5. So in terms of the weekly chart here, we did get a close above the weekly decision point resistance area, and they did take that high out last week. So we'll get that nice 1900 round number up there. And then if we look at the Dow, let me look at the Dow here on the weekly chart. If we just take a decision point off of this level here, all right, here the Dow has some room to go. So whereas the S&P, I gotta go back here, whereas the S&P has made a new high. We've taken out this wave 3 high. Remember, we had the wave 4 we projected where we anticipated support, and then we projected our wave 5 levels. It's made a new high here on the weekly chart, but the Dow has not made that new high yet. So the Dow may need to play catch up, and if it does, if it reaches this level, then we should see the S&P in that 1900 level, which would make sense. Having said that, the S&P is in wave 5. It could correct any time, but we don't have an indication that the sellers were overcoming buyers last week. So we'll see how that candle closes this week if we get an indication sellers are overcoming buyers. But we'll see if we get that last run into 1900 on the S&P. That'll get the Dow up around the 16,700 level in its weekly decision point resistance. All right, let's look at silver here on the weekly chart. Again, we'll go through this. There's our wave, the wave 5 up near that $50 level, and then again we anticipate a correction back to the wave 4 DP. That's the tendency. Again, if this area holds as support, then the trend, which was up prior, should continue up. Right, but if they take this level out to the downside, then we know the tendency is that they'll wipe out this whole 5-wave pattern up. We find wave 1, we go back to the bottom of wave 1, take our decision point tool there, and this is the level we would anticipate. If this level gives way, we might anticipate silver around $10. So far it hasn't given way, but in the meantime, what we had here, once they broke the little trend line bottom here, right there we had that kind of descending triangle Here was the bottom of that. They broke below that. All right, had some support come in here. That's our weekly wave 4 DP support, but it unfolded. If we kind of go back here, let me make this part a little bigger now. This last tail section here, remember we had our pattern that unfolded. This 1, 2, the big wave 3 down, rally into wave 4, and the rollover, and we were looking for obviously wave 5 down, which would come in around that 1750 area. So I'm just going to project the levels here. And so many did take the short here in wave 4. See with the red sellers candle, that was the indication that sellers were overcoming buyers here in the wave 4 resistance. And so the target was the 5 wave down here around that 1750, 1760 level. Alright, so we had this run down here, didn't quite make it. Now we know we're in major support on the weekly chart, and so obviously there's no guarantees that we're going to get down to 1760 or 50 level here. So stops are at break even at 22.90. Now the silver did rally. We've seen that hit the this is your 50 period moving average here, hit that resistance and has begun to roll over here. We'll see if this continues to hold as resistance and we get another retest, of this swing and eventually the wave 3, the low in silver there. All right, but if it doesn't, if it rallies and continues to rally or resumes this last rally here, then closes back above the 50 period, then we take the stop on the short, and the trend therefore may become an uptrend now, and then we want to be a buyer on a pullback in a new uptrend, a new potential bull market here. So we'll see how that plays out as the weeks unfold now. Now silver's lagging gold a bit. If you look at some of the other metals, like what they call the white metals, palladium and platinum, those are really picking up, and the metals tend to move together. So we'll see. If we just want to look at gold, where's my GC? Okay, gold had a little the buy signal there. Here's its 50 period. Now it is closed above the level. If we just want to put the analysis on the trade setup, you see the target there on 1405. All right, now this was the 50 period. It did close below the 200. That's your golden cross. Obviously, these moving averages are lagging, but eventually, if this is going to become a new bull market, you'll see the 50 period, golden cross above the 200 period. That's the blue line here, and those are the times if we're going to resume a bull market there. We talked about in length before about being a buyer when price comes below, when it's in an uptrend, when it's in a bull market like this. Good times to buy are when price drops below the 50 period but above the 200 period. All right, those are opportunities to be a buyer in those markets. And so at this point, we've got the 50 period cross below the 200 period. All right, that was that, the big sell-off here. So we're going to see, again, this is a critical point here. If they can continue, if they can take the high out from last week, then they'll probably make a run for that 1405. If they can't, if we get a lower high this week, and then that they break the low of that candle, and we may see some selling off in the metals here. All right, let me I might backtrack a little bit, going back to stocks. Actually, I'm going to look at the DAX here on the weekly chart. The DAX had this pullback, which was a wave 4. All right, we can project up wave 5 on the weekly chart here. Okay, give us some targets. Remember that 10,000 is out there in the DAX, a nice big fat round number. The minimum wave 5 target will come in just inside of 10,000, but the top end of the minimum wave 5 target is at 10,000. So it moved higher, just kind of sold off here. We'll see if this area holds as support and the DAX can make that run with the Dow and the S&P, the ES 1900, and maybe get the DAX up and around that $10,000 level, or DAX 10,000, I probably should say. So that's the DAX. I want to look at well, let's look at the Euro US dollar here. Why not? So we'll come back here. Again, the Euro had this 5-wave pattern down, after the top here, where the DP sell signal came in. This unfolded as a 5-wave pattern down here. Again, here's that last swing into the wave 5 low, which is your wave 4. We'll take a decision point off of this level. And you see, this is the level that we anticipate if they go wave 5 down, it should correct back to. Right, and we talk about this level being a critical level. If this area holds as resistance, in the trend, which was down prior, should continue down. But if they take it out to the upside, we can go to the top of wave 1 here, take our decision point, and that would give us another level that we should anticipate that the Euro would get to if they take this level out. Now you can see they still haven't been able. It keeps, we had an initial rally into that level, sell off, rallied into it, sold off again, rally. The sell-offs or the pullbacks are more and more shallow. So we'll see eventually. Now it hasn't been able to close above the level, but if it closes above this level and then takes the high out, then we might see a run in the Euro. We'll see the dollar selling off. But so far this is held as resistance and haven't been able to get through that level. If we look at the let's look at the dollar index on the weekly chart. You see the dollar index. Here was the major bottom here in the dollar, and here was the target. And you can see the dollar is also hitting its head above on this resistance. This was the last swing into the low. Now this wasn't a 5-wave pattern here, but this is major weekly decision point resistance here, and the dollar hasn't been able to get through that level. Each time it's made an attempt there, it's sold off. So just kind of consolidating in and around, sitting around the 200 period here. Your next support in terms of the weekly chart is going to be right down here, beginning right around 78.80, and again this will continue to act as resistance until we can get a close. See, we got a close above this level here and here, but they weren't able to to take those highs out immediately. Got the red sellers candles and they sold off in there. All right, let's wrap up with some of the option candidates. These are stocks that have tended to rise during the period from March through May. Over the last 10 to 13 or so years, every year during this period, these stocks have rallied. I gave you the option list, I think, last week, and here's it on the scanner here. So Allstate, ADS, which is Alliance Data, Snap-on, SNA, RSG is Republic Services, BA, Boeing, of course, Beam, AVP is Avon, and HSY is Hershey's. So a few of these, their start dates will be, Beam start date was Friday. Let's just look at here's Beam here on the weekly chart. Now Beam had this, and I put again, here's your 50 period and 200 period for some perspective. The buying opportunities, obviously, you just put the analyze this setup, but this hit the target here, and then the announcement of the they're being acquired. Beam is being acquired by another company, so hence the new price, the big gap there. All right, so that kind of throws things off a bit. We'll continue to watch this one. Be interested to see where this goes during this period from March 7th through April 23rd is the window. So the buy date was on the 7th, and we'll track the progress of this one here. Boeing will be March 12th is its buy date, and you can see again, if you look at Boeing, obviously it's had a nice run here. It's trending, and again, the time to be a buyer. If we look the below the 50 period, above the 200 period, when it's trending like this on the bigger time frames, and so you can utilize the automatic trade setups that come in. So it's in that area, above the 200 period but below the 50 period. Typically a good a candidate when it's in an uptrend, and give another little level of support here on the daily chart. So pullbacks into the 120, was this 125.50 area should provide some support there. And then here's a target from the weekly chart. We'll call it 147.50, 60 area. 150 is right in there, a nice round number that you might look for there. And then ADS. By the way, Boeing was affected by some news from the what's going on in the Ukraine and Crimea and that situation there, some disruption. So there may be an opportunity to buy in a pullback there. And then ADS, the buy date on this one, Alliance data is March 14th, so that's next week as well. And again, this one is moved higher, trended higher during this period, going all the way back to 2002. And this one again, there's some good buying opportunities. You see it's in an uptrend below the 50 period but above the 200 period. That's the area that professionals like to buy in. Okay, so I mean a nice TS3 that comes in, so you've got an ABC corrective move inside that level. A nice 4.5 times your initial risk. Right, those are the areas that you look to be a buyer. So it's outside of that area currently. Here was the last. All right, so don't know that it'll come back in this area if we're in this time of year where it tends to trend higher. It may just continue higher, but let's look at another potential level that it may get a pullback in if you're looking for a level. We'll see on the buy date where it is, and we'll track it from there. But right around that 270, 275 level should be some support there. All right, so we'll wrap it up. We'll take a look and see how these things progress this week. As far as the economic data, we do have pretty much a full slate of economic data this week. Monday's a little light, but the rest of the week, including Friday, with the PPI, is we should see some good movement in the markets intraday, and we got a Fed meeting coming. I want to say it's on the 20th, somewhere in that area. We'll as that comes closer, we'll pinpoint that. And that should be these Fed meetings. I think each meeting now is going to be a little bigger than the last, so we'll keep an eye on those because those are obviously market movers. All right, so we'll be back next week and do it again. Till then, have a good trading week. Take care. We'll see you then.